Yvonne here. Welcome to my craft room. Let's get cracking to make these three-dimensional flowers for this card. All the paper dimensions are down below, so don't panic. So first we're going to start off with doing the front of the card on the Whisper White or Basic White. With the blending brush, start off with Petal Pink. And you're just going to gently blend this on. These new blending brushes are absolutely beautiful. And just gently work it in. And I'm going to do it sort of in the center. And a little bit around different spots. And then the second color is Soft Seafoam. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to gently, lightly tint that white paper so it'll match the flowers and the layering. My third color will be the Crumb cake, and I'm using 3 stamp sets for this. This 3 stamp sets is Very Versailles, Happy Thoughts, and Best Year. Okay, now with the Very Versailles leaves, I'm in Soft Seafoam. I'm going to stamp the leaves and just placing them in every direction, trying to give it that soft coverage look, foliage looking. Okay, then I'm going to put the design from the same stamp set in Petal Pink. I'm going to stamp off some and just keep stamping randomly just to give that, reminds me of old-fashioned wallpaper actually. I really love it. Okay, and then in Crumb Cake I'm going to stamp from the same stamp set, the sort of a script looking stamp in Crumb Cake. And I'm going to stamp it off. That means I'm going to ink it up, stamp it on my scrap paper once, and then stamp it on my cardstock, because I don't want it to be too bright, too strong a color. Okay, and I'm going to touch it up with a little bit more Petal Pink in the middle. I think it could be a little bit more color there. And when you're finished with these blending brushes, just run it under the tap and then softly, gently with a soft cloth, and it'll come snow white clean again. You don't have to worry about it staining. Okay, now for the inside of the card, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the blending brush, put a bit of Soft Seafoam in the corner, very lightly. Hard to see on the picture here with the camera reflection, but just a slight green. Stamp the leaves. It's a beautiful stamp set. And then with that pink design again, I'm going to put it in the background. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stamp the sentiment first, the wishing you best year yet, I think is what it says. It's from the stamp set Best Year. And I put that pink in the background. Okay, so let's start punching the flowers. First of all, you're going to tint the flowers just a little bit. I'm going to use Petal Pink ink refill and just a couple of drops. Spritz it with some water. and then spritz your paper, and you do this with the green and the pink. It just gives a little bit of a light texture color to it. Doesn't change the color tone of it. It just gives it a little lighter, dark color. It just it really makes a finishing effect. It's not really noticeable, but it's very, very subtle, the flowers. So I'm just wetting the paper, and I'm just going to drop it in the ink, smear it around like so, and do the same. Just get a little bit excess off there, and make sure your paper is really, get it really nice and wet so that that ink doesn't grab into one spot. You want it to spread nicely. And I'm doing several pieces of scraps here because you want to do the big flowers. You're going to do 6 punch out what I'll come with the pansy punch for the 6 petals, and then I'll show you the rest here. So you need a few amount of pieces of scraps. Same thing here. And just slosh it around. No big deal. Don't get too fussy with it, because the more randomly the color is, the better it is. Don't try to get it evenly colored. And then just wipe off. I'm going to wipe this off so I don't mix my colors. So now I'm going to take some soft sea foam re-inker and do exactly the same thing. And this is for the leaves. Need about 15 of the leaves, so you have to, a few pieces of scrap paper here. Do the same thing, spritz it so that the ink is not quite so concentrate. And then spritz your paper and do the same thing. These Stampin'Up sprayers are just excellent because there's such a fine mist. You can really control the water so it doesn't go crazy on you. Just give that a little bit more water. Okay. Now you're going to want to, if you let it sit and dry naturally, I'm going to force it with my hot air gun just so that it doesn't take so much time. Just wiping the excess water off there. But when you're drying it with your air gun, if your paper starts to curl up, then turn it over so you keep it fairly flat. And I've edited it out a bit of time. This can take you a little longer than what I'm showing you here to do it. But just do it. All you're wanting to do is to set that color into the paper so that when you water it up again, you're not going to lose that ink. And it just that drying process just gives a little bit of strength to the paper because you're going to mush it up pretty good in the next step. So you don't want your paper really waterlogged. Okay, first you're going to do, this is the leaf punch, and I'll give all the information down below. I'm going to punch out about 15 of these, 14 or 15, I can't quite remember. But I like to do a couple of extras in case they get ripped or torn. And I'm just going to speed this up. Okay, the next step is going to use the pansy punch, and you're going to punch out 6 of those. You're making 3 flowers, you want 2 petals per flower. And my apologies, Buddy's barking in the background. The cat is meowing. They both were having a nap when I started this, but you know, I don't know, that I can't shut the door because then they just sit and bark at the other side of the door, so... And the cat scratches on the door, so sorry for the funny noises. So I'm just punching out 6 pansies with the pansy punch. The next punch size is going to be the, Where have I got it here? The Small Bloom, which is in our current catalog. And that's the 3 of those, for 1 for each flower. And then the Small Flower Center, it's called the Itty Bitty Accents. It was a little tiny punch set from a set of 3 that was a couple of years old. But you know, really, you can use any punches, anything you use that you want for flowers. It's really quite simple. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up again. I think Buddy found a milk bone hidden somewhere, and he's playing hockey with his milk bones. He likes to do that. And Tigger's drug in some toys, so I stopped this to try to shoo them out. I'll never get going again. Okay, now with the itty bitty punch, I'm going to punch out 6 of those. 1 for each, the center of each flower, and then 3 smaller ones. Then from a piece of white scraps, 3/4 inch punch, I'm going to punch out 6 of those, and those are for the backs of the big flowers. So they can be out of any old scrap paper, it doesn't matter what color they are. I just happen to have some white strips. Okay. Okay, now let's start to actually form. This is the fun part. Spritz some water out and just put it in a plastic or a saucer if you don't have. And just wet the flowers up, wet it up as much as you can. And you do this with all of them, and get so it's soft. If it's hard or crunchy, it's not wet enough. Don't try to make any severe folds with it, and just see how I'm crunching it up. And then flattening the tops, giving it a good crunch. Work it so that it's got that nice wrinkle effect. Now go ahead and do that with all of them. I'm going to do the same effect. And I'm just going to speed this up again. Okay, now we're going to do this exactly the same thing with the leaves, keeping in mind that the darker side that has some coloration, I want it on the inside, so I'm kind of folding everything to the inside, like the darker colors, just so you'll see it more when you're putting it together. And I won't show you making all of these because you get the hang of it. What you're doing is just scrunch them up. Just hang on to that base of the leaves there. You don't want to twist it up so that you've got something to glue, to hold the glue. You want it to kind of keep flat. While those flowers are drying a bit, and I did use the heat gun a bit just to kind of speed up the drying process, I'm going to start assembling the card front. So starting with your Petal Pink layer on your card front. I'm sorry, you're putting the Petal Pink on the basic or Whisper White layer first. Then your card front that we just finished making is going to go on top. But before I do that, I'm going to stamp the sentiment, Happy Birthday, from the stamp set Happy Thoughts. And I'm going to heat emboss it with gold. So first you have to stamp it with VersaMark ink. Use your embossing buddy. That takes the static off the paper so that your powder doesn't stick to everything. Okay. Ink it up. I mean, ink your stamp up. You know what I mean? And stamp it. And then with the gold embossing powder. And I like to keep a sheet of scrap paper underneath it just to pick up any extra powder so that I can just put it back in the container. Okay. Then with your heat gun, heat it up. And it melts it. It makes a beautiful gold. There you can see it's finished there. Okay, then we're going to adhere that layer on top of the Petal Pink. Gosh, it kind of looks good the way it is, doesn't it? Okay, then with the Stampin' Seal Plus, I'm going to use the gold metallic ribbon from our January-June catalog. I love this ribbon. It's so soft. Okay, let's start putting the flowers together. Now remember, the flowers are still going to be a little damp, so be careful with this point. So using your piercing pad with matte, and that's the tool from my scoreboard, and I'm using the fat end circle. I'm just going to flatten where I'm going to put the glue, and I take one of those 3/4 inch circles, put some Tombow on the circle, and then put your first flower in. And you don't want to flatten the flower too much. You want to leave it that crinkly look. So just tapping down in the center, enough room to get adhesion onto that circle. Then do your second petal, same thing. Just open it up a bit and flatten it so that you can get some glue in there. Okay, and then you just see, and it's still quite soft. It's not really dry, so just be careful. You don't want to the paper, if you push too hard with your scoring tool, you might poke a hole in it, so just be gentle with it. Okay, and offset it, and then take your small bloom, which is that middle size flower, and we'll do the same thing. And then one of the little tiny ones, same thing, just kind of enough room, daub of glue in the center of your flower, put your tiny bloom in, and you're going to repeat this for all 3 flowers. Okay, and just kind of, it's still a little damp, so you can mush it around a bit. Okay, and I have a little bit of champagne mist mixed with some alcohol in one of my spritzers left over from another project, and I just gave a little squirt just to give a little bit of sparkle. Totally up to you. I did have a video on how to use that champagne mist with the alcohol. It's an alcohol blend with the champagne mist in one of those spritzers. It looks really good. It's lasted me forever. Okay, so that's the first flower. Do the same thing for 2 more flowers. Now when you get all 3 flowers done, they're still going to be a little damp. I used a little bit of heat gun here just to kind of dry it up a bit. And then on the back, flip it over with some Tombow glue, put your flowers on. And I put 2 leaves on 2 flowers, and then on 1 flower I put 3. And then I have the extra leaves that I can put on the front after I've got them placed. And do the same thing with the Tombow. And then when you have the leaves on, I just took another of those, that 3/4 inch circle, and put it over top just to help everything glue together. Now I was doing this because I thought I could make a whole bunch of these in advance, and if I put that extra white layer over the top, it'll just keep everything intact. But I like putting it on the card with that backing on it already. It just seems to hold it in place nice, and you're not going to lose anything off of it. So I just like putting that extra layer. You don't have to, but I just kind of liked it. Okay, so just gently hold it in place. Don't flatten it too much, and just set it aside now, and you're going to let those dry. Okay, on the front, I'm going to put the one with the 3 leaves on one side, the two leaves together. And it's so simple. I'm just putting glue on that back 3/4 inch circle and putting those down. And just my leaves a little bit flattened there with my finger, so I'm just, because it's still a little damp, you can still crinkle it up some. When these flowers dry, they're just hard as rock. When they dry, they're just marvelous, so don't have to worry about it. But while you're making it and stuff, be careful because your paper is still damp. Okay, so place your flowers in place, and then your extra leaves, I'm just putting glue on the back of them, and I'm not flattening them out too much. I'm leaving that soft, crinkly look. And they look kind of velvety to me, very almost like ribbon or like a material of flowers when they're done like this. And I'm just placing them. You can be I don't know, I'm not the best flower arranger in the world, so you just do however you pleases you. I could have made more. I could have made this in a whole circle. Afterwards, I was thinking that might look really pretty, as doing some smaller ones, like the middle bloom and the smaller one and smaller flowers, and maybe making kind of a 3/4 hoop there. That would be pretty. Just a thought. And just, whoops, tap it in. Make sure you got enough glue in the back there. And I attached that one leaf, I tucked it in underneath the ribbon because it doesn't have that great adhesion onto the ribbon itself. So, okay, and then once you've done that, got the little tiny blooms, the little ones up in the corner, those little petal pink ones. And they just add a little something to it. I'm not sure how many leaves. I forgot to count how many I actually used on this card. I think I punched 14 or 15 out. I think I have a couple left over. I'm not sure. But I like to make extra just in case. And once you have those in place, and the little tiny buds that I'm going to show you, you might as well get this card front on your card. And I put it on with dimensionals. There, and you can see I just kind of opened that up a bit so I could get some glue on the back of it. Then I added the elegant faceted gems. They're petal pink. They're kind of a milky opal, and I just put 4 of those, 1 in each corner. And I just love the color of those. Those are in the annual catalog. And then to the center of the flowers, I added, you could use the white pearls and color them with your blending pens with the petal pink, but I had some left over. They came in petal pink. There was a bunch of different colors, so I used those. But you could use white, pink pearls. You could use the petal pink. You could use gold. You could do whatever color whatever you like. And oh, before I did that, well, no, I got the pearls done. I'm sorry. And now to the inside of the card, I'm just putting that inside. And always make sure that before you stick anything on, that you've got your card fold going in the right direction so you don't accidentally put your card front on upside down. Been there, done that. Okay, so I'm just putting the card front on with dimensionals. And this is a 5.5 by 5.5, so I put a few more extra dimensionals on, more than I would normally put, just because it's a bigger card. There you go. That's an easy and quick way to make some really pretty flowers. I hope you like this card. I hope you try it. P.S. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And thanks a lot for coming to my craft room. See you again. Bye for now.